So, all right, what we have here, and all of you should have a character sheet. Were you able to print? I think everybody's got a printed copy. Do you have your copy, Aubin, of your character?
I do.
Awesome. Okay. So, this has a lot of different stats on it, and it's not your classic D&D, but we're going to go through some of these, and this might look a little bit different than the ones that you have because this is from the actual core set where you have the ones from the starter set. And the starter set is really nice because you're going to see that as we go through the quests, you don't need to know a lot right away on the first quest, and it starts to layer. It starts to build on it where you start to learn new skills with each quest on how to do different things. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take a look at this. And I think we'll wait for Belba. I'll use your character names. So what I've done here is I've kind of cropped and zoomed in a little bit to the very top part so you can see
Yeah, started attacking you.
these three categories that really kind of make up your character. There's strength, there's heart, and there's wits. And really, like, the higher that T and that target number, that's the number you're trying to hit with your dice. So a high number is not actually good. A high number means you're not really great at it. And so here we can see that Prima Rumble is probably really good with wits. So what's wits? Wits is that she's, wise and sensible. She's kind of like one of the Baudelaire children from a series of unfortunate events. She can invent things. She's very clever. She's probably good at making traps or something, or finding them or unhinging those things a little bit. If you have heart, you are really good at encouraging others. You're very positive. You're very Belba in real life, um, very encouraging, which can actually be really nice. That can really, bring some comedy relief or hearten people, or when people are in dark situations, kind of make them feel better. Um, and then for strength, that one's pretty straightforward. Most people think strength, okay, they're a pack meal, but not always. Sometimes it's just physicalness, right? So you might be very gymnastic, or you might be really imposing, or very attractive, or different things which can come in handy throughout the game. So, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Just looking at those three target numbers.
I am Lobelia Brace Girdle. And I have 16 strength, which, knowing nothing about the game, that's kind of one of the reasons I chose her. And 12 heart and 12 wits. Those are my TN numbers.
Amazing. So 16th strength, you probably saw that number as like, oh, she's really strong, when actually she's not, right? It's the other way because you're going to be rolling the dice and you're going to have to hit 16. However, she's
Mm-hmm.
she's really well rounded and really strong in heart and wits, which can be very helpful.
So did you have to
Mm-hmm.
hit the number exactly or just be below it,
Hit it or
the target
above.
number?
You have to hit it or
Oh,
be
hit the
above it.
target number or above.
Yeah. Which we're going to learn a little bit about the dice and how to hit those target numbers, but they can be a little difficult when they're higher. When you start to hit these numbers that are 15 or 16, you could still hit it, but like we'll see how the dice work in a little bit. But that's 16 still a bit high for sure.
All
So
right.
what about
Well,
Paladin?
my strength is 15. My heart is 11. Oh, I'm Paladin took the second. And my strength is 15. My heart is 11. And my wits are 14.
Wow, so you have a lot of heart. That's awesome. So that's really good to keep in mind when things are feeling pretty dark. You probably pretty strong at bringing some hope back up and some energy. What about Belba?
Belda Gamgee is who I'm playing, and she has a strength of 15, heart of 12, and 13 wit.
Excellent. So she's kind of also well-rounded, almost a little bit like Lobelia, but a little bit stronger and a little bit weaker on the wits. A little bit of but not too much. But definitely a lot of heart again. So there's a lot of heart on this team. A lot of heart and a lot of hope and a lot of energy, which makes sense with hobbits, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so looking at strength, and kind of zooming in on strength, you have these different skills that you might have checked off on here. We have awe and athletics, awareness, hunting, song, and craft. And it's hard to read this because this is not PowerPoint. I'm using this software, and so I can kind of take this through and I'll read it, even though I hate doing that. But like, awe is charisma, and Uh, this can also be intimidation, charm. It's a first impression of a character. Having a high awe would be great at influencing via dramatic entrance, right? Or impressive attire, or a steely glare, or a flirty wink. So awe has those capabilities. You can put somebody in awe. I think Legolas did that quite a bit, and
Oh
maybe
yes.
Gandalf from time to time. Not to go out of the Shire, but when I think of awe, I think of uh, Batman, the one with Jim Carrey, when he comes through and the Riddler says, "Now that's an entrance," right? And like I just think, okay, big entrances or
Okay.
just really impressive, or but again, you can use that charisma. You can kind of almost entrance people a little bit,
Yeah.
or again, intimidate them. So
Yeah.
athletics,
Convince people of what you're doing
yeah.
or
Does
what you want them to believe.
anybody have some check marks in awe?
I have nothing in awe.
I do. I have two
That's
I don't know,
awesome.
check marks.
Yeah,
Ah.
those are pips. So what happens is when you want to try something, like let's say you want to try to intimidate somebody, right? And so you're like, okay, I want to try to intimidate somebody. You got this 12-sided dice. Whoop, there it is. You have this 12-sided dice. And if you have no check marks, no pips or anything, you still get to roll this, but you have to meet or beat your strength number. So here I have a 14. There's no way I'm going to meet or beat that unless I roll a 12, which is a critical hit, if you will. Now, if you don't see a 12 because you have a one ring dice, then it's going to be Gandalf's Fate of the West, or Will of the West symbol. You
Okay, gotcha.
probably also do not see an 11, which would be the Eye of Sauron, and that's a 0. So it's critical failure, essentially. So you want to try an awe, you have a 1 in 12 chance. You're trying to get that Will of the West because you don't have 12, your chances are really low. However, with Aubin, so if the group is together and like, oh, we really need to intimidate this person, those pips
No.
equal your 6-sided dice. So you get to roll all the time, you always get to roll your 12-sided. You get to roll two 6-sided dice as well. I'm sorry, I keep saying the wrong name. Lobelia. So Lobelia has 2 pips in awe, so she gets to roll this plus these 2 and add them together. So her chances just go up quite a bit.
Okay, so I'm correct in thinking I get to roll my 12-sided dice in addition to two 6-sided dice.
Yep, and then add them all up. And then if you hit 14, like, well, I don't know what your number is, but in this case, this
16.
person, wow, yeah, so that's tough. So you've got a 12-sided plus these two 6-sided, but you have a 16 number to hit. So that awe is kind of tempting you to try because you have these pips in there, but it's also a little bit tough, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a challenge. So that's awe. Athletics, those are pretty straightforward: running, leaping, jumping, swimming, um, clambering up a tree. Anybody good at athletics?
Yeah. So what is the difference, Matthew, between like on your screen you're showing like on craft, for example, it has a check mark at craft
Hmm.
and it also has a pip in craft.
Oh, well, we
Would that
will
mean are you getting to
favored.
that?
We're gonna get into favored.
Oh,
Yeah,
favored. Gotcha.
yeah.
I have
So
one athletic.
To answer your question, I have one in athletics.
Me too.
excellent. So you both have 1 in athletics, which means you always get to roll this baby. You always get to roll the 12-sided dice if you want to attempt anything. But now you also get an extra dice to add those together. All right, so awareness, this is the ability to see the unexpected or hard to detect. Awareness is excellent choice when new to any scene or environment. And so this is a piece of advice I would give a lot of times. A party might go in, and by the way, like I have watched some of these played. I haven't really played in a while. Just from my observations, this is what I see. And then uh, Paladin, I know that you have done some RPGs, so maybe you can also talk to this a little bit. But awareness is a great one to try out when you're just out of a loss of what to do. Like you're plopped into an open field. You're like, I don't know what the GM wants us to do. Just be like, oh, I look around. I'd like to roll for awareness, and then the
Yeah.
GM might be like, oh, you see exactly what I want you to see. You know?
Yep. Or you can look around or if you want to look for a specific thing,
Yeah.
you can say, I want to roll awareness.
So awareness is really good at kind of a broad sweep to try to find things. Where scan, what we're going to come across is scan in a little bit. That's a little bit more detective work. You're kind of being a little
Okay.
bit more intimate. It's a little bit closer. Might be in a room. You could try awareness in a room. You could try scan in a room, and that's fine. But typically awareness is big. Scan is looking for clues.
Gotcha.
Hunting. Oh, by the way, how's everybody doing on awareness? Any winners on awareness? Anybody got a lot of pips on that?
I have two, two pips, but I don't have the check mark.
That's fine. So that's fine. So the check mark on the other side of it, we're gonna see in a second. That's a little Christmas party. That's a little holiday party, a little birthday.
Mhm.
That we'll see.
So, but I do have two awareness pips.
Wow. So Lobelia is really seems like you picked a good character. Very challenging that she has that 16, but then she has those skills in there.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 awareness too.
Oh,
Excellent.
nice.
A lot of awareness. Hunting is tracking
Funny how
prey.
I was delayed on my awareness.
Hunting is, it reminds me of you're not just hunting for food. It's very Strider-esque. It's very, him with his ear on I love this scene too, where Strider's just uh, got his ear on the rock, and
We lost you, Matthew.
oh,
Oh,
am I
oh,
back?
there you are.
Yeah, I love
Oh, so Matthew,
Mhm.
yeah, I think I missed the beginning of the
Yeah,
hunter.
we lost your audio for a little bit, but
Oh,
now you're
okay.
back.
Yeah, so hunting is very much like you can think of Strider, right? He sometimes is out hunting deer or whatever, but he could also be hunting for hobbits to try to find his friends and, listening to the rocks and trying to look at the trails and trying to do some tracking. So that's hunting. Anybody good at that?
Yeah,
Negative.
I have one in hunting, but it's favored.
Ooh, okay, so let's talk favored. So what favored is, if you've got that checkbox on the other side, like we can see on the screen with craft, it means you get to roll two 12-sided dice. However, you don't get to add both of them up. You just get to pick the better number of the two.
Gotcha.
So in your favored one, or let's take a look at craft here. So craft, they would be able to roll two 12-sided dice and one 6-sided dice, and then what they would do is they'd pick the better of the 12-sided dice and then add that 6-sided dice to it for their grand total. Everybody tracking with that?
Yep.
Groovy. Okay, so song is a weird one. I'm still wrapping my head around it. Uh, but it's singing songs, playing instruments, very bard-like. This is kind of subjective, so we can kind of use it for different things, maybe like awe or charm in a way, like or distracting or who knows. It could be used to embolden a
Oh, heavy
party.
song.
Yeah, I mean,
Heck yeah.
hobbits are great at songs, and I did some research in the book, and I was like, what exactly do you use this for in a tactical way? And I think we get to make that up as we want.
Oh yeah.
So,
Go to bed,
I,
spider.
I I think we should all form a band, and then go to different areas and just perform for our adversaries to confuse them and get
I'll
us to
play the
join them.
tramborine.
Yes.
Yeah, and like one of the things that might happen is if you
150 elves come down the street.
there's some interesting things too, like you might hear people singing songs and you could ingratiate yourself by singing with them. However, lore, like if you are high in lore, which we'll see a little bit, might actually help you understand what they're singing about a little bit more. So there's a little bit of the difference of what song might be in lore. Anybody high in song?
Doodle Bilbo.
I have 2 pips in song.
Ooh, yeah. We're gonna find out why a
I
little
do
bit
as
later
well.
when oh, really? Surprising, Lobelia has 2 pips in song. That's great. What about you,
Hmm.
Belba?
We need a sea shanty.
A sea shanty?
All of us.
There we go.
I'm
Yeah, I
not
think
gonna
first we need a
Is
boat.
there a land shanty? Is there like a
a
grass
land
shanty?
shanty, a gardening
It
shanty.
really should be.
We'll
If
make it
not, we
So
up.
need to make one up.
when we
I'm
do our
two DM.
you're two, so everybody's
Mhm.
two, bunch of singing hobbits. That's great. I love it. And we're gonna see a little bit later. I'm not gonna ruin the spoiler paladin as we introduce characters where that song may come in handy later in your lineage, which is pretty
Excellent.
cool. So craft. This is not like blacksmithing or anything like making swords and things like that. This is more at you're good at making a fire. I mean, we're hobbits, right? You're good at making a fire. You
I
can,
can knit a great vest.
yeah, you can, yeah, exactly. You can put some nice
Tea
foam
cozy.
core organizers into Mythic Battles Pantheon, right?
Exactly.
You're good with a glue gun. Um, So you could fix a wagon wheel, you can mend a shirt, you're good at field bandages, you could probably put a splint together or figure it out. So that's what crafting would be. Any good crafters?
I just
I
have
have
one.
one.
One. All right. Well, that is strength. I hope everybody's feeling okay about strength. You'll notice these ratings on here and endurance. Endurance is something you're going to be keeping track of. When you get to 0, you fall asleep. You're exhausted. You're a hobbit. You're done. I'm out for the day. So you want to manage your endurance, and you're going to see that over on the side of your sheet too. But this is kind of your set endurance. When you go into the core, you have a little bit more control over this and creating your characters. All right. So with that, we will go to heart, and with this, we have enhearten. Um, this is different than persuade, and rather than reading through this, this is really for other people. So you are enheartening them and emboldening them, and this isn't through like a great speech of charisma. This is through an action.
Combat proficiency is part of strength.
Combat proficiency.
It's below strength.
Athletics, yeah.
Oh, like I guess
Oh,
I
the
can wield
combat
axes and
proficiencies. Yeah,
bows.
we will look at that a little bit later. It doesn't even we're going to look at that in the second quest.
Okay,
This is very much a biscuit and muffins quest.
good.
Yeah,
You can axe some biscuits.
There we
exactly.
go.
Yeah. And that I love that too because you don't have to ingest this whole statistical kind of a thing for new players and whatnot. Good question. So within Hearten, think of Frodo saying, "I will take the ring to Mordor," right? Like that just really just broke everybody's heart and just like they all came together and the fighting stopped. It really does well in crowds. It does well when something tough is going on and it's kind of an action-based thing. So that is in Hearten. Uh, you have a warrior and you decide, well, I'm going to go with the warrior. Oh, boom, in Hearten. That's really nice. So travel. Oh, how's everybody looking on Enhearten? Do we have a big Enhearten person?
I have nothing in
Oh,
heart.
I'm 12.
12?
Well, you mean the number or the skills?
The pips, the little check marks or the pips next to it, or the favored.
I have insight and curiosity with 2 pips, and both of them are checked in addition to 1 pip in healing.
Ooh, that's
I
good.
have, all right, the pip, like so mine's checked on curiosity.
Courtesy. Courtesy.
Or courtesy, yeah. I like reading. Really good
All
at that.
right. Well, I tell you what
Oh,
we'll do, just to speed it up, I'll kind of go through these a little bit quicker, but please pause
pip,
if you're good on that one. Does that work a little bit?
um,
Well, you have to be drinking beer.
since
That
nobody
looks so
has
good.
travel and nobody has oh no, Alvin, you have insight, and I have healing, and I have battle. So,
Mhm.
is anyone else?
Yeah, I have insight with 2 pips and healing with 1 pip and courtesy with 2 pips.
Wow, you're just like this sheet right here. So yeah, for travel, it's not necessarily like walking so much, but you might be able to spot a shelter a little bit easier. If you see another traveler on the road, you're a little bit more seasoned. You might be a little bit more wary of that traveler that's on there. You might be able to find a shortcut a little bit easier. So that's what that travel gives you. Um, if it's raining, right? So here's another thing to think of with the group. If it's just pouring down rain and it's really bad, you might have one person that's good at craft and they could try rolling for that and then fail. And a traveler is like, well, they could find shelter maybe or find a nice way to keep a little bit drier or find something. So you could use that. There's a lot of ways to approach a problem. Awareness. Oh, you see a place where you can get shelter, or travel. Okay, you found a place where you could get shelter. So there's a couple of ways to approach it. Uh,
Okay.
Insight. And I love this. It's that I think an agent of the enemy would seem fair but feel fouler. It's having that intuition about people, and that's what that insight is. If you think somebody is, it's not like you could tell somebody is lying. It's not like you're a lie detector, but you just get a gut feeling. And so, as a GM, I might say, yeah, you kind of have a gut feeling that they're lying, but that doesn't mean that they are lying. They might just be bending the truth or just a general untrustworthy person. So that's insight. Healing, uses of herbs and salves and king's foil, if you will, bone setting. Courtesy is probably one that you will use a lot in the beginning stages as you're learning characters and learning hobbits. They're very courteous people. So the way I interpret this is it's a longer term cousin to awe. Awe has got like this immediate effect, but courtesy has a longer lasting effect. It creates more of a memory, more of a longer impression for friendships, and um, it creates a good foundation for gathering information over time or getting allies over time, and that's what courtesy can kind of get you, or getting more supplies, right? That you might need.
You said it too. It's curiosity. You said courtesy.
Oh, courtesy, the curiosity of courtesy. And then I
Mhm.
think Aurora's question about combat, we do have battle here, and it's just to gain advantage when fighting a foe. So that's when you're rolling for battle. All right, so we'll head on down to the next one here. And I am taking some time with these because when you're doing RPG, and please, Paladin, if you do have the experience in the group, but it feels to me like the more you know your character and you just spend some time with your character, the easier it is to just sort of role play it. And knowing
Yeah.
these skills is kind of what you're role playing, because you're going to go in and say, "Oh, I want to go talk to the bartender. I want to go to blah blah blah," and then eventually you kind of winnow down to a skill. Or maybe you're like, "I have no idea what to do," but you have your top 2 or 3 skills, and so you can just be like, "Okay, I'm going to try courtesy." Yeah.
Yeah. Another good way to get into your character is read their little backstory.
Which we're going to get to. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
totally heading that direction. Session 0, get to know your characters, right? So Wits, typically you would build these characters, but these are kind of canned for us. So for wits, we have persuade, stealth, scan, explore, riddle, and lore. Persuading is you don't really want to use this on your own party. You probably could try to use that to win an argument of what your entire party should do, but you want to use that as like a one in a million, maybe. I mean, if you want to do it all the time and that's your character, go for it. But the idea is that you want to sort of collaborate together. But this is more for other people. You're trying to persuade other people, NPCs, and other people that you're running into. Um, Convince them of an idea or something that you want to do. Stealth is something that I believe most of you should be good at. Are you anybody favored in it? Anybody strong in stealth?
Yeah, I'm favored in stealth, and I have 3 pips.
Excellent.
Actually, I do too.
And
Yeah.
Belba, how are you with stealth?
It's not checked, but I have 3 in stealth.
Anybody know why?
Why is it not checked?
Know why so high in stealth?
Oh, because they're tiny.
Because I
You're
steal
hobbits.
spoons.
How about you're tiny and you're very light-footed.
Good thing to keep in mind as we're going into this. You are hobbits. You are, if there's one thing you're good at, it's courtesy and hiding.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah. No, thank you. So then we get to scan, which we talked about. Scan is another good one. If you're kind of at a loss of what to do, you can just try scanning, and that's a good way to see what's happening or get clues, kind of detectives in a way. Explore. This is a little bit different than awareness or scan. They can all kind of work together a little bit. Find a trail once you're lost. Creating paths, setting up camp. It's pretty closely related to travel. So whether you've got a strong traveler or a strong explorer, they can kind of work a little bit hand in hand and have some overlap. Riddle is another one that I'll kind of underline and in bold. I don't want to tell you what skills to focus on, but this tends to be another one that hobbits lean in heavy on early in the game is riddling. And it's a way to kind of be deceptive, uh, uh, do some double fast talk. I don't know if you've seen The Hobbit. We were on a road. Well, more than a path and a road. Well, actually, we were on this road, on a path, on a road, and it's just like you're just trying to befuddle somebody with the way that you're talking to kind of throw them off what you're actually doing. So that's one thing Riddle can do. The other thing Riddle can do is try to pull some connected pieces that may not seem connected from what other people, because hobbits riddle, they gossip and they riddle, so you're trying to connect some dots. So I'm not sure if Aurora Belba caught that, but maybe one of you guys can share that with her when she gets back. And then lore is understanding the history and knowledge of something. If you come across like a statue or some sort of like sword or some sort of symbol, or an ancient tome or book of some kind, if you're high in these marks, it really helps you able to interpret it and understand it. Cool.
So wouldn't languages fall under lore, for
Yes,
example?
languages would. And I actually think trivia, well, not trivia, but anybody know what languages the hobbits seem to be fascinated with, or at least Bilbo?
I'm blanking.
Elvish.
Elvish,
Yeah.
yes. All right, so Belba is back from her journey there and back again. Anybody like to explain riddle and lore to Belba?
Take it, Tim.
All right. Lore is a skill that allows you to sort of get the history about something or the potential uh, uh, different regional aspects. It's different languages. Trying to read markings on any books or artifacts that we may find. And then riddle is trying to Uh, connect the dots in a puzzle, or connect different points of information that we find for a quest, or confuse somebody in a conversation because of the way hobbits talk. More confuse them and hide what we know in a conversation.
Well done, yes. I like half of you half as well as you should like, and I know less than half of you half as well as you deserve, or however he says the thing.
Yeah.
Riddles to throw people off what they're saying. There's a great graph chart on there that basically nails down that there when you do all of that, there's just two people he doesn't like. Um, so yeah, well done. That's exactly what that is. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next piece here. Does everybody feel okay about understanding the skills and understanding like the strengths, the wits, the hearts, and kind of the skills that you have for your character?
Coming along.
All right, cool.
Sure.
So how do skill checks enter the game? It really depends. There's a lot of different ways that they can enter the game. Um, you could just, if you're not super comfortable role playing or coming up with stories, you can just say, I'd like to try to scan to see if I see anything. That's super fair. You could totally do that. Or you could really,
I'm sorry.
yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I realize I do have a question,
Mhm.
which you're probably going to get to in a minute, but just to make sure, in the section where it talks about rewards and there's valor for one, this one that we just went over in wits, virtues has wisdom, and mine also has like a little phrase in here that I was wondering if we were going to get back to, or
Yeah, we can take a look at those in a second. Some of these things will pertain immediately. Very few of them, though. I took a look at some of these, and I think, uh, yeah.
okay,
So
disregard.
like, yeah, there's some of these that like you can immediately start to use. But like for example, if you have something there that says, "Hey, you're really good at swords," you're really not going to need not any spoiler. I mean, you can take a sword out if you want in the first quest and try to do that because you can do whatever, but you probably won't. It builds. It'll slowly build into
The
these things with like
goblin sword, though.
combats and rewards, and I think some virtues are allow, hey, you get another hope, which you're going to take a look at hope in a second. It's like you don't really need it in the first quest. So that way you're not bogged down with like learning a bunch of rules immediately. It's a good question though, because there is that section there that has some rewards and virtues and combat proficiencies, which they'll show up in quest number 2 or 3 a little bit more.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so with the skill checks, like if you're scanning or trying to use awe, again, you could just say, I want to try to use awe. Even if we went through this and you're like, I can't really remember what awe is, you can just be like, I'm just going to try it. And then I can kind of help guide a little bit, or maybe I can't remember what it is, but let's just try it. And that's totally fine. Or if you want, you can just be like, in character and just flow with it and just be like, I go up to the sheriff and I decide, I just stare the sheriff down and I don't say anything to him. I have a stone face and I'm just giving my biggest amount of intimidation so that maybe he'll back down on questioning us, right? And then hopefully as a GM, I'm clicking going, oh, I need you to roll for, an awe check. So there's two ways skill checks can kind of enter. One, you're doing some story time, or two, you can just be like, I don't know, I don't feel comfortable doing story time, or maybe you want to test it out or try a little bit and you're like, I just want to scan. Totally fine. Stay in your comfort zone, but then stretch yourself out a little bit, just like yoga. Let's see. One of the things you want to be careful of a little bit is daisy chaining a bunch of things together. Like I pry the door open, I sneak past the guards, I steal the keys, and then, you know, I throttle the sheriff, and then I go out the front door and I run past the dog. Like that's way too many things that we have to check all of those, right? Not to say you can't do those things, but you might want to just be aware that, hey, it goes a little bit slower. You could say something like, I want to leap over the balcony and knock over 2 guards. Let's like, okay, they're kind of combined, they're kind of thing. Let's roll for, maybe some athletics or something. Tim or
Yes.
Paladin, any thoughts or comments on that with some of your experience?
I think you hit it right in the head. Um, just the great thing about pen and paper role playing is you can try to do whatever you want,
Yep.
and then um, the GM gets to react to whatever we're doing.
Exactly. So, like, don't feel like you are constrained. You can be wild and wacky, and you can be like, hey, I think that this person's going to try to invent a flying thing and is going to try to fly across this cliff, and, and then I have to deal with whatever you're coming up with, right?
Mhm.
So, uh, imagination, the land, the
Yes.
theater of the mind, if you will, and creativity. So, um, this is fairly on the rails. This quest, so I will be very open to all of the things that you want to do, but I'll probably try to keep it on we're on the haunted house, and we're just kind of on the roller coaster going through the rails. And then once we finish the starter quest, then it's big open world, right? Any questions? Any thoughts on that? Everybody good? Cool.
Can I go
So,
last just to make sure I see how
mhm.
you guys know how to do it?
So one of the things I've been mentioning is that some of these things like adventure points, skill points, fellowship score, don't we don't even need to bother with them in the starter set. That all's more open world type things. Oh,
Okay.
you went. Oh, there she went.
Oh,
Sh-
Almond's gone,
Aubin is gone. And
and maybe she's coming back. There,
there
she's
she
back.
is. She's back, ladies and gentlemen. Okay,
Welcome back.
so as mentioned before, adventure points,
Yay!
skill points, fellowship scores, those are more open world. We've left the Shire and we're kind of doing bigger adventures, so we don't need to worry about those right now. Endurance, you do want to keep track of your endurance. There are ways to get it back. We don't need to worry about that quite yet.
How do you lose endurance?
Injuries, carrying too much stuff. Um,
Okay.
yeah, sometimes a failure with athletics or things along those lines.
Okay, so it's health points as
Or
well as.
me being a horrible human being and just said, you had a horrible sleep that night and you haven't had enough meals. Everybody loses a point of
Meals is as
endurance.
important.
Or maybe, I just decide that some of your choices have been a little unsavory and I decide to take away some of your endurance. Because, why not?
That's what evil James do.
Yes.
Wah, 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 wah.
So if you get
Dun,
down
dun,
if you
dun.
get down to 0, you don't die, the game is not over, you fall asleep for an hour. If your endurance is at 0 and you're wounded, which we don't have to deal with wounded and weary and all that stuff at this stage, but if the worst of the worst of the worst happens, then yeah, your companions probably need to drag you out of harm's way, but nobody dies in the Shire. Come on, right?
Yeah.
It's Hobbit time.
All right.
So with that, we'll kind of head to this. So flow of the game, I'm going to describe a situation. I'll do my best to describe it, and then it'll maybe just feel like you're just kind of left in a parking lot by yourself, and then you have to figure it out. Because it's going to be this wonderful little story time of like, and then there were cookies, and then the stars came out, and now what? And then it's just dead silent, and you're like, oh, it's our turn. And that's when you start thinking, and so probably a good thing to do at that point is start if you have an idea, go for it, right? But and there's no rules at this point. You can jump in, you could do this, but if you're at a loss, chat with your party. Hey, what do you think we should do right now? That's a great first question. What do you think we should be doing? And then just start, conspiring of how you're going to handle that you're in this empty parking lot with no idea what you're supposed to do because the lore master is in the bar drinking and you're just neglected. Wait, did that get dark?
No, not dark. Just
Any,
it will become elevated
it'll become
because the lore
elevated.
master is drinking.
Yes, the lore master is having a pint and you are left out in the field to chase rabbits. Um, so yes, that's what happens
Rabbits
is
is important.
you'll have this experience of like, oh, this is a lovely little story, and then all of a sudden, oh crap, there were probably clues in what they were saying, and now it's our turn. So keep that in mind. So then you'll be conferring of what you want to do. One character might want to take charge or whatever, and that's fine. Share that a little bit with people, and then you make a plan and you make some actions on it, and then I will evaluate what's kind of happening. And at some point, I'm like, I think that needs a skill check. So if it's things that are pretty basic and pretty easy, I'm probably not gonna do that. But if something wild comes up, I'm like, oh, you know what? I think I'd like you to run an athletics check on that, or I'd like to run an awe check on that. So there's a situation, you guys are conferring, coming up with a plan, making some actions. If you're at a loss, use your skills. That'll kind of give you some guidance, awareness and scanning. Those are great ones. Dealing with people, courtesy, riddles, those are great ones. Uh, and then I will kind of narrate the outcome. Now, in some cases, you're going to roll your 12-sided dice and you're going to roll your 6-sided dice. And if you get a 6, there's a little cool icon on there. And that means that you had an amazing success. So in that situation, I might say, okay, so you passed. Like, not only did you hit the number, because I'll be asking, or you can just actually say, I hit the number and I got a 6. A 6 doesn't mean that you automatically succeed, but if you succeeded, if you hit or you beat your target number and you got a 6, that means you did it with some style, right? And so I may narrate what that is, and most oftentimes I might, but other times I might be like, okay, so you really did an amazing job at this. Tell us how you did it. And then I'll hand it over to you to kind of flourish, how you did such an amazing job with overcoming this obstacle. That's pretty much the flow. And then I set up a new situation. Does that work?
Yeah.
All right. We're getting through this. We only have like 2 more of these, and then we're ready to learn about the characters. So with roleplay, who's done role playing or improv class or any of those types of things, or done acting stuff? Aurora? Okay.
I was never good at the acting, so I did production.
Awesome.
Oh, good. Production's a huge part.
So I'd
I'll take
like,
care of the lighting.
The only thing recently that is like really good for improv to remember is we're doing Crow, and that's character, relationship, objective, and where, and it creates a guideline to like, think about like what's missing here, what's making it like enticing for us to go forward. Of course, you're
Yes,
handling a lot of
and
the where, which is awesome.
mhm.
But yeah, we develop our character and what our character would do for an objective, and I feel like that will be good.
Crow, can you go through that again? I've never heard of Crow. That's awesome. So it's what?
Character, relationship, objective, and where.
So character, that's who you are and kind of like your favorite catchphrases and things. And then what's the relationship? This person's my arch nemesis. Is that what that is?
So you're building lots of it. Like, I mean, all stories, all mythoses create relationships.
Excellent.
And so I guess it's kind of like a quick improv summary of what's the most important things for humans to be interested in. Kind of like an essay or a news article would want who, what, where, why, and how. But when you're acting, there's so much more to that with like the script or the spoken decor. There's a lot of different things that are really important for people to be engaged. But when you're just doing things without sets and without good scripts, you need to focus on what is like enticing to a story, and it's easiest to remember, like, am I developing my character more? Am I developing the relationships between my character and the other people on the stage? Um, Objectives, what's their purpose there? It grounds the character. It also grounds, well, I mean, like with this stuff, it's a little different. So I'm excited to see how it plays out. But then where sometimes when you're on stage and you're just talking to somebody, it makes sense for you to, but it wouldn't make sense for the audience. So the more that you're able to speak the decor, right? Like you're in the chocolate factory, like, and then the objective, like, how many chocolates can you eat in one sitting? And then the character is that's Willy Wonka and he doesn't want you to eat the chocolate versus you're like, I'm gonna eat all of it.
Mhm.
Nice, I like that. So, I have just some basic things here, but I do want to hear from Tim as well, and like, what has been your experience with RPGs and like how, uh, because it's weird, like, how do you improv, and what are some things that have been helpful?
But at least for me, like just for me, it's like exploring the world and exploring your character.
Hmm.
So if you, I always try to play in worlds that I think are interesting and unique and just evocative in some way, and then I try and create a unique character that I want to play in that world. And so with these, so that would mean I create a backstory, and just to help get into character, reading the backstories on these will help you get how would they act in this situation. Or I noticed on the character sheets they have distinctive features, and so like for Paladin took the second, I'm eager and I'm rustic. So I would try to play into those features. Um, so
Excellent.
it's I like role playing over really heavy like min maxing and focusing on mechanics only. So
Fun, fun. I think that'll be good. I'm definitely have no idea what I'm doing. I'm gonna do some really bad old man voices, but whatever. Andy Bernard did that on The Office, and we're just gonna do it, right? So,
heck yeah,
some things that I just put out there, uh, which I've mentioned, trying awareness, scanning, travel, explore will kind of keep things moving a little bit for you. If you're having to deal with people, courtesy, awe, riddle, those are good ones. Um, but you're not limited to those. You don't have to do those things. If you just want to bust out with a song out of nowhere with a giant cave troll in front of you, go for it, right? Like you can just do whatever you want. And
hmm
like don't feel like you have to follow like, oh, I have to win or I have to do this thing. Just like, what do you want your character to do? What do
yes,
and what kind of fun do you want to have? So these are not meant to be like the guardrails to cling on to. These are just more like if you're stuck, if you're not really sure, here's just some ideas, but you're not limited to these ideas. So last one is another little tip is if you're a little bit stuck and at the beginning, just pick two or three skills maybe that you feel pretty strong about or that you're curious about and look for some opportunities to bust out with those two or three skills and then maybe add more skills as you go, right? So like let's say you're really strong at uh, insight, right? And you're really strong at stealth and you're really strong at scanning. Or maybe you're not strong at them, but you got a little bit in there and you're like, okay, I'm going to focus on. I remember what they were talking about with stealth and scan and riddles. And then look for some opportunities where you're like, I'm going to try a riddle, or I'm going to try to do this. And then that way you're kind of practicing and messing around with a couple of skills rather than trying to just ingest all of them and pick the right one for the particular situation. If you're like, I really want to be good at songs and I'm going to sing in every single situation that I can, then go for it. Um, So I think with voices and stuff, you don't need to do a voice. You absolutely don't. But if you want to, go for it. I'm going to try to do a couple of voices, and I have no idea what I'm doing. I think I've tried to do English voices before, and they come out like some hybrid of Chinese Mexican. So
Mhm.
I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll try and not try and whatever. And I
Try and
think.
have fun with it.
Yeah, and I'll send you this link that I put in here. I like what you said, Paladin, about knowing your character. And you can go online, you can look at ways to describe a person. Or just the seven dwarves. Are they sleepy? Are they grumpy? Like what is a character trait of your character? And with that, let's learn about your character. So who would like to you could read the back of the character. You can kind of go through some of the skills that we looked at and share a little bit, but who would like to share
I
about their
watched a
character?
YouTube video. I watched a YouTube video on Lobelia.
Oh, really? All right. So
Mhm.
tell us all about Lobelia Brace Girdle.
Well, she eventually becomes she gets married at some point. So I'm wondering where we're at in her story, actually. So, like, at the very end, she turns out to be a good guy, but for most of her story, she's not so great. So I don't know what I should reveal because she's still a brace girdle, which means she hasn't become what Brandywine. Oh,
Right.
I'm forgetting the.
She has not married yet. And I do have, what I could do is I don't think you have the back of this. I could read the back of it if you like. This back thing. I don't know if you have this.
No, I do not have that.
So I can read this and then you can fill in the gaps around it. Does that work?
Sure.
Awesome. Okay, so Lobelia Brace Girdle. Can you believe the gall of that? That Brandybuck? Oh, he calls himself a Baggins, but no right and proper Baggins would run off with a pack of mad dwarves and a half-cracked wizard into the blue, let alone have the audacity to show his face over a year later with a pony full of gold and pretend everything's right as rain. I'll not have it, I tell you, and I'll not have him bringing any more undue scandal to the proper people of the Shire. He's up to something. Calling Tukes and Brandybucks to bag in for some nasty troublesome business, no doubt. The daughter of Blanco Bracegirdle and Primrose Boffin Lobelia has yet to marry Otho Sackville Baggins. She's about 40 years old, and she has already seen her ambition to enter Bag End as rightful owner disappear once when Bilbo returned from his adventure against all odds.
Yeah. So what I heard is what I was reading is eventually she marries Otho and they have a kid which is like Lotho, I think. It's just his name with another letter in front of it. And their son eventually, when the Shire is being overrun with all the orcs and um, Saruman's army, then the son takes their side and imprisons people and turns into a bad guy. But Saruman comes to town and he double crosses him basically. And her son is killed in this incident. And in this process, Lobelia is locked up in some cave and she resisted by hitting a bunch of them with her umbrella. And afterwards, when Frodo comes back and Saruman's been defeated, she's released, and all of the before Bilbo had gone to go uh, put the ring in. I forgot what it's called, the volcano or whatever.
Hmm.
Then when Bilbo
Mordor.
comes, Mordor, thank you. So before he leaves, he actually signs over the Shire to Lobelia, and then she eventually, after she's released from her prison, she gives the Shire back to to Frodo, and she donates all her money, and she moves back to her hometown, and she she lives out her old life because she's very old at that point, and then passes away.
Thank you so
That's an
much.
awesome umbrella that you brought
Yeah.
today.
Little scouring of the Shire
Yay,
hero.
nice story. I mean,
Yeah.
terrible story, but like good storytelling.
I like to think that
It was
Lobelia wasn't so
interesting.
much upset about the orcs and Saruman and more upset that they were bringing adventure into the Shire.
Yeah. Too much
Man.
excitement.
Too much
This
excitement.
is a
Take your
bad
excitement
part of town.
elsewhere.
I'm done here.
hmm
The property value just went down because orcs came through.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
Loud
Right.
music.
NIMBY orcs.
All right, who would like to share their character? Wow, so you're kind of coming in and just making sure no nonsense is happening. Is that how you interpret what? Well, how do you? Because you can kind of take her in a couple of different directions, right?
I think that she's greedy, and she feels like she's owed more than she is. She's a Karen. She's
Yeah.
kind of,
You got
you
an
know.
Angela from The Office.
Yeah, exactly. She shakes her umbrella at everybody and tells them, like what to do and what not to do.
What a colorful
Um,
character.
yeah, and she's kind of a bad guy for a while, but I mean, I like to think that there's a little bit of good in her. If she
Hmm.
sees that somebody's going to get hurt, then she's going to pull you out of the sand pit that you fell in, and then shake her finger at you and be like, now don't you do that again, I told you not to be there. How dumb can you be?
Absolutely.
So that's kind of the way that, also kind of mothering, sort of. um I don't know if overprotective is really the way to look at it, but like, I don't know. Like, if I had a little sibling or something, I'm allowed to pick on my little sibling all day, but nobody else better touch him. So that kind of vibe, I guess.
A person of
But
high principle.
yeah, exactly. And well, and if there's going to be something where, like, if there's a bunch of, wine that we all stumble upon, then like, I'm definitely gonna have all of it because I deserve it, kind of thing.
Excellent troublemaker.
hmm
All right.
Yep.
Speaking of troublemakers, let's go to Paladin.
Troublemakers. Bah. Just going on a little adventure with a cat.
Let me bring up this. Yeah, so tell us about Paladin Took the Second.
Well, I'm just gonna read a little blurb before I
Hmm.
met up with all of you, because I was minding my own business in Whitwell, and who should come trundling along up the lane but young Esmeralda, off to see cousin Bilbo she is. And I thought to myself, that is a right fine idea. What's wrong with little Took having a touch of fun before settling in down and become a proper farmer? I'm still a tween myself. Why not set off some of that responsibility for another season or two or four, and honor myself and my great grandfather with a wee bit of adventure? Seems only the proper thing to do.
Excellent. And do we have a little bit of Paladin's
Yeah. So
yeah.
she's Paladin's the underage brother to Esmeralda Took and future Thane. For the moment, my only claim to fame is being the oldest son of Algrim Took and a newly settled farmer from Whitwell. And then one day I'll have a son named Peregrine.
otherwise known as Pippin, who was really good at singing. Hence the singing that you're really good at. It's in the family, it's in the genes.
It is.
Excellent.
An
I love
adventure
that the
in
cat is
hiding.
in on the RPG. I can hear her like purring. It's great. She's the
Yep,
Balrog.
pretty much. And like laying on my dice and the character sheet.
Oh no,
Perfect.
is that what's going on over
All
there?
right, so let's hear
Yep.
about Belba.
Well, she has a little bit of character building to do. I'm young and inexperienced and um, very lighthearted. Um, Belba Gamgee is my last name, so I'm related to Samwise Gamgee in a mysterious way that is yet to unfold. hmm so she's just kind of a run-of-the-mill Hobbit girl, and she's gonna end up cutting her teeth in the world and knitting some more scarves on this adventure for sure.
Excellent. Yes, and so a lot of the players of the Lord of the Rings, like where you're at right now to kind of plant you time-wise, is in 1342 Shire Reckoning, is when Bilbo, well, actually, let's go back a little bit. In 1341, so there's a Shire Reckoning, and then there is the actual the Shirelings, the hobbits, they have a different timeline than most people of Middle Earth. So they follow, it's about 1600 years difference. So in 1341 Shire Reckoning, Bilbo left on his quote unquote said adventures because there's still questions around that. This was 2941 or 2941 of the Third Age. So there's that gap. The hobbits kind of keep a different timeline. Uh, he was gone for about a year, and so he came back in 1342 Shire Reckoning. Um, and you find yourself in 1360, about, what were we talking about, 20 years after, or 18 years after he returns from 18 years after he returned from Smaug and hanging out with these dwarves. And this is also about 40 years before his 111th birthday. And so people like Frodo and Pippin, as we're looking at Paladin and different characters, they're not on the scene yet. Frodo and Pippin have not even been conceived. Um, so this is about 18 years after the dragon and 40 years before Frodo goes on his journey to Rivendell. And with that, I think we have a good first session or session 0. Is there anything that we're missing for session 0, Paladin, would you say? Before we maybe adjourn for a quick snack and then maybe decide if we want to jump into the first little foyer. You guys are
Yeah.
excited? Like,
Either way
let's
is
just
fine.
go. Let's just go. Let's just do
Yeah,
it.
let's just do it.
Okay, I
Yeah,
need
I'm
like,
ready to.
let's just take a quick
Let's
2-minute
roll
break.
some dice.
Yeah, let's roll some dice. I'm going to take a quick 2-minute and then I will be right back. So grab your juices, grab your muffins, grab your honey cakes, your scones, if you will, and your mead, and then let's meet back here at 9:56. Does that work? Let's do it.